where's Miss Lisa? Thank you for inviting and having us. This is my third time coming to this homecoming, and I just thoroughly enjoy it. I cry before I get to it. I'm probably going to be crying just trying to get ready to talk to you guys. Has this been awesome?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Again, to think that this is our first residence for many of us who come here, and it's always great to see the caretaker, the care CTIs, the care technicians, CCTs, okay. The people just loved on us. That technical word, CC, they cared on us, they loved on us. And even the nuns who are here. In fact, the lady who named me, I just found out she passed away. And she talked about that 2 years ago when I was here. She stood up and started talking, hey, I named you. I'm like, wow, my dad was here, my wife, and we didn't know. We never knew how I got my name Joseph. We thought it was St. Joseph that was found, and we'll talk about some of that. But I have a couple things I want to share. We're going to have a little fun. I'm talking to family. I met a lot of my big brothers and big sisters, and I think some of my brothers and sisters met their big brother, me. So it's good to be home, as I would call it. There's this thing, and I spend a lot, I'm in government, I'm a public servant, and I spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence. And I tell you, coming here about 8 years ago for the first time, it just rang so loud and true that of all the things we do, life, liberty, and the pursuit of, the most important is what? Life. Because nothing else matters if there's no life. You can't pursue what God has given you. You can't go after and do anything without life. And so regardless of how we started in this place, it was because somebody gave us life. And obviously the Daughters of Charity, they poured a lot into us. That was because, again, this decision of giving us life. They poured love on us. And so I want to make sure that stays in front of us, regardless of all this journey that we've been on. We've been able to go on this journey because someone gave us life. And I never met mine, and I think we got some folks who met their birth parents and all, how powerful that has to be. But again, it's part of a journey. And the neat thing about it, I call us adopted kids, is we've been twice adopted. Somebody had their hands on us from the very beginning, and they continue to have their hands until we get to know who he is, and say, yes, I want to continue to be a follower. So anyway, with that, I want to say, in nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. You didn't know that. I was going to be a priest at one point. I got accepted in our seminary, and I was all in, except I kept thinking, I want kids one day. And so the Catholic Church, priests can't have kids. And so I left the seminary and went on to have a bunch of girls. I had 3 daughters, so I knew what I wanted, right? So, Wizard of Oz. Who remember Frank Baum, the classic, The Wizard of Oz? Remember that? It's all about a journey, and I love that as a kid, reading through the book and watching the television. Some of you guys don't remember The Wizard of Oz because it's too young, Jennifer and Mark, so you remember that one? Okay. You may remember The Wiz with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, But that was such a great story, and it illustrates all of us. It illustrates this whole journey piece. Now, here's the magic about it. Think about it. So the first character was Dorothy, right? What was Dorothy's issue? She wanted to get home. Here we are in our first residence, and we're trying to figure out what is home, where is home, right? And then you had the Scarecrow. What was that concern? What was his issue? No brain. And we're sitting here wondering, hey, what did we do? Why was I giving up? We're wondering all the thoughts. Was I a bad kid? Was I a child of a molestation? Was I in an interracial relation that I was a product of that and that wasn't acceptable? All these thoughts that go through our head. Or what about that next one, the Tin Man? Remember, what was the Tin Man's issue? No heart. Dang, will somebody love me? Man, can I love again? No faith, no belief, no wondering about this person of who I am and why I'm here, and thinking the thoughts and lost at home. And then the last part is the lion. More king of the scaredy cats, not king of the jungles, but because he was no courage, right? Will we have the courage to move on in life? That story just illustrates the life in my mind, at least for me, as an adoptee. We'll go through each one of those stages. That's what I found out. That's everybody in life will go through all of those at any point in time, no matter how successful, no matter if you intact families or not. You will have those days when you're like, all I want to do is go home. Today it's just a crazy day at the office, right? Or you wonder, hey, I just got promoted, but you get promoted to your next level of incompetence. Can I do this work now? Oh my gosh, you're wondering, right? Somebody thought you could, but now you're down yourself. Or do I have the heart to push forward? Will I have the courage to stay in the fight? Well, here's what we know about this whole Wizard of Oz journey. If she did not stay on her journey, we wouldn't know about Dorothy. We wouldn't know about the rest of the characters. Remember, Frank Baum wrote the classic, and he said when that house Dorothy Gale was in landed in Kansas, what did she do? She got up, dusted herself off, and started on this journey. Still wasn't at home, still just as lost as she was when they landed, but she stayed on this journey. And that's my message today, is all about staying on your journey, our journey, staying on the journey. Because in that journey, guess what you'll figure out? You'll start discovering some things about yourself. Because what happened at the end of the journey for her? She realized that everything that she needed, she already had in her. Everything that you need in life, you already got in you. But you got to stay on your journey. You got to go through some self-discovery. There's a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations. Guess what? There's also a lot of triumphs and a lot of victories. Because you'll find out on that journey, it's not you by yourself. You'll run into a scarecrow. And guess what? The only way they made it to Oz is because of that scarecrow. What did they give him at the end of the journey? A PhD. Right? Don't let someone else's opinion of you dictate your plot in life. Just somebody else's opinion. What is your worth? What is your value? What did he say? I created you in my image. We got to hold on to that. We got to think on those things. They made it to the Wizard of Oz because of his strategies and his calculations. I mean, he came up with the calculators and wow. And then the Tin Man felt he can fall in love deeper and bigger than he ever did before because of the people on that journey. We met some of those care technicians here. We met some of the nuns and nurses. You can feel the love. The communications director here was asking a question. I said, not only they tell you that they love you, you can feel it. You can look at the pictures around this building and see that love. That's the Tin Man. And then the lion. The lion found out that he had courage, right? Because he took his eyes off himself and put it on somebody else. Those people were on the journey with him. Let somebody, remember when they were messing with Dorothy and Toto? They jumped up, put them up. You remember that? Right? Because it was no longer about him, it was about the people on this journey with you. And so, to me, the Wizard of Oz kind of illustrates this. We're in this life, and we'll have days when we just want to go home, and we don't think we got it all up here. Our heart is this weekend, and we don't have the courage. But if we stay on that journey, we'll discover that everything that we need is in us, that we can be, because he put it in us, that we can love, and we can stay up and get into the fight for the next day. Let me share another story with you. So there's this young girl, maybe 13, 14 years old, who had just had a kid. She lived in Chicago. Wintry weather, snow and ice outside. Just had this newborn baby. It's nighttime, and she's crying. Two reasons. One, she's crying because she just had a little boy. But she's also crying because she knows she can't take care of this kid. She pulls the blankets off her bed and wraps them up. And she finds a basket in her closet, more like a box. She puts them in this box and wraps them up in this blanket. And she goes through the streets of Chicago. Snow and ice is going, tears are freezing on her face. And she sees an apartment complex. She sees the light on. She lays the box there. She hides behind a tree. And she's hoping and praying and waiting. Hoping, praying, waiting that somebody will come out of that apartment complex and get a little boy. Nobody's coming, the tears are freezing, and all of a sudden she hears something. Somebody starts walking out of the apartment complex, sees the box, takes his foot to move the blanket, and the blanket moves. He sees there's a kid in there. He goes back into the apartment complex. He wakes his wife up. He wakes the neighbors up in the complex. They start walking around the neighborhood trying to figure out where this kid came from. The police will come about 3 hours later and say, you know what, you saved this kid. We're going to take him to the orphanage. And they was talk about the rest of the night what happened to that kid. The kid would go into the St. Vincent's orphanage right here. And that would begin the story of my journey. That was my beginning. So how did all this come about? 8 years ago, the state of Illinois changed their laws. I'm in Arkansas at this point. I am the Deputy Secretary of State, and I don't know how I found out, but the laws have changed in Illinois that if you were ever adopted, you can have your original birth certificate. Wow, Lord. If I get my original birth certificate, I'll know who my birth parents are and let them know I'm okay. You got 3 daughters, 2 grandsons, and wife is, man, thank you for giving me life. Well, it took them months to send me that original birth certificate because they were overwhelmed by the number of people who were looking for their original birth certificate. Well, I finally got it. I was sweating like I am now as I was out cutting grass, and my wife said, hey, you got something from Vital Records in Illinois. I'm like, what? And I tear it open, and it reads, "This is your original foundling birth certificate." I said, "Foundling certificate? I got 3 daughters and 2 grandsons. I know what a birth certificate looks like. This is your foundling certificate. What's a foundling?" I did like you guys did. I binged it, Googled it. "You were found. You were abandoned." And I'm telling you, my mouth dropped. I'm 43, 44 years old. What are you talking about? I was abandoned. Huh? You were found at this day. I said, hold on, that day, that's the day I celebrated. It's my birthday, March 20th. No, that's just the day you were found. You were found on March 20th, 1965, at this address by this man, Caesar Johnson, and you were received in the orphanage by Dr. Stevenson, I think it was. And just like you, I sat with my mouth open. In fact, my heart pounded, and for about a month, I was just shocked by what I was just reading. So my whole life, I celebrated my birthday as March 20th, but no, that was just the day I was found. And then to be told I was abandoned and found, what are you talking about? Wow, what did I do? What did I be left in? How? So I struggled. I finally said, okay, I got to stay on this journey. So I started trying, if I can find the doctor who took me in the orphanage. And I had already been in contact with St. Vincent's at that time, which was now Catholic Charities, but all the information they had was a closed, sealed file. And so the doctor, I found him, he died in 1991. Okay, all right. So I wondered, can I find the guy who found me? So I did all this research and found a bunch of Caesar Johnsons in the state of Illinois. Bunch of them. And then I realized I'm older than all of them except about 3. So I eliminated all of them. I had 3 names left. I'm in my office, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And I called, before I called Caesar Johnson, the first name on the list, I called my wife. I said, honey, how do I get somebody to take my name? I'm about to call the names on the list. There's 3 of them. I'm about to call. How do I get them to take my phone number? She said, why? I said, well, if I say something that shocks them a little bit and they hang up the phone, they'll at least have my number if they decide to call back. You got to know my wife. She said, well, you just make the call. You always analyze it. Get out of your head. Just make the call. You've been waiting your whole life. Call. That was not the answer that I wanted to hear. But I did what she said. I made the call. Anyway, I called and I must have woke up the lady. Her name is Miss Ruby, and she answered the phone. Hello. Hey, yes, my name is Joseph Wood. I'm here in Arkansas. I'm looking for a guy by the name of Caesar Johnson. He spells his name a little different. He would have saved someone. That guy would save someone. My husband saved someone. Sound like some of you guys, right? Save someone. My husband saved. That's how she sounded. I don't know if her head was moving or anything like that, but that's how she sounded. Save someone. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, yeah, he does spell his name differently. How do you spell his name? So I started to spell it. She said, yeah, that's right. She said, save someone. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, what's your phone number? Now, I just told you what I did with my wife, and now I'm crawfishing. Well, why do you need my phone number? Well, he's almost 80 years old. He's hard of hearing, and I may have to change phones. And I'm sitting in my head, man, he's almost 80, and I'm 45, 47. Damn, this may be right. So I'm all in my head again. And hello, what's your phone number? Oh, yes, my number is, and I started giving her my phone number, and then she said, hold on, you said save somebody. Was it the baby he saved? Yes, ma'am. Are you the baby he saved? Yes, ma'am. Oh, Jesus, oh, Lord, Jesus. She went on a Holy Ghost tear, and I am bawling. Oh, I'm just blubbering. Oh, my God. Caesar, that baby said, oh, Jesus. She kept going and going. Oh, I am just bawling. And he comes to the phone. Caesar's very different than Miss Ruthie. As some of you guys know him, Johnny, he's mellow. He just, hello. My name is, I was a mess. My name is Joseph. Hello. He can't hear, but I can hear her in the background. Can I tell him? And she's just going on. He comes back and said, oh my. Oh, I remember like that was yesterday. That had to be over like 50 years ago. No, it was 47. Not that old. And he said, oh my gosh, like one of the coldest days in Chicago was like 8 degrees, snow and ice. And I was going to work. I just put my wife and kids to bed. And I'm going out of the apartment complex. And there's this box with a blanket. I didn't know what it was. And I took my foot to move it, and the blanket moved. And there was a kid in there. I'm looking up and down, and I'm looking for this. Nobody was out there. Go back in, I wake my wife up, I wake my neighbors, a few hours later, we got the police, and wow, and you're alive. Oh, wow. If you ever get to Chicago, I'd love to see you. So I'll be there next month because it's Thanksgiving, I'm going to see my dad, and at that point, Catholic Charities said, if you want to come, we got a little file on you. It's all now all non-identifying, but since you already found people who found you, you can have that. And so we came to Chicago, and we had a great relationship for about 7 years. He passed away last year. He was a Korean veteran. So I tell people, not only was I was saved by a veteran. But I tell you, the greatest honor was, it changed his life. We're talking about this journey thing. It changed his life. It changed how he interacted with his family. 3 years ago, he asked me to come to his family reunion down in Mississippi. Like, I don't know your family. He said, yeah, but I don't want my family to take for granted what you've been searching for your whole life. We'll have over 300 plus people at this thing. They'll come from all over everywhere, but we'll have a masquerade ball on Friday night, a picnic on Saturday, and then we'll do a church service on Sunday, and you'll speak at the luncheon. I said, I don't know your family. He said, yeah, but I want you to share how you got to the family, etc. So we were all planning to go. January 13th was the day. 2 weeks before that was Christmas. Right after Christmas, we get a phone call. Caesar's in the hospital. His kidneys are collapsed. Oh, he can't go. He and his wife, Ruthie, hey, he got to go. And the family's been planning all this. I don't know your family. I really don't know. My wife, we're going to go. So, we went, right? Yeah. We got down there, and they loved on us just like Caesar and Ruthie. I mean, they just rolled out the food, they put us up, everything was so awesome. And then Sunday was the reception, and I'm speaking at the luncheon, talking about this story I'm sharing with you guys, and at the end, they were standing up, they were clapping, and there were some men older than me crying. I couldn't understand, what did I say to make them cry? Well, they had spent their kid years growing up and going to visit Uncle Caesar in Chicago, and he always talked about this kid that he found. And now I'm standing in front of them. See, this journey that you're on, it's going to impact and influence people's lives that you don't even know and don't know how. But you got to stay on that journey. See, if Dorothy never got out of that house and just stayed on the middle of the floor and cried, we wouldn't know who Frank Baum, who wrote that book, we wouldn't know who he is. We wouldn't know about the Wizard of Oz, or even if Diana Ross or Michael Jackson could do Wiz. It's because she got up and stayed on this journey. And we may have a yellow brick road to follow, but there's going to be goblins and witches and flying monkeys. All that's going to be out there. How do you stay on your journey? How do you remember to hold the hand of who's held your hand from the very beginning? That's what all I can do. My journey has just been unbelievable from all the trials. And again, I used to spend a lot of time wondering, what did I do? All right, well, what if she was molested by her dad or uncle? What was she in an interracial love this guy, and they said that wasn't acceptable back in the 60s, and they took the kid. What if she too old, too young? Was she a prostitute? All these things I used to play in my head that you guys may have played in your head. But every time I got to that spot, and weeks would go by, maybe a month thinking on that, I would end up getting to a point where I said, I guess it didn't matter, she had me. I guess it didn't matter, she had me. Well, then I met Mr. Caesar. He said, she must have did more than had you. She must have loved you, because she put you in a place where I could find you. Because see, she put you in a plastic bag in the alley, I wouldn't know you. We wouldn't be talking right now. This journey that we're on. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys, that stay on your journey. The influence and impact that you will have will change your family, your community. I mean, for me to go from the steps of Caesar to the steps of the courthouse now as a county judge in Arkansas, the first black judge in Arkansas, I couldn't architect that. I could have never dreamed that. That's God. That's His hand on all of us. We're only here because of Him. The people who adopted me, you guys, hey, so I was brought here, and no one knows. They said it was less than a few weeks old. That's about as old as they know, because there was no records. And there was a couple who had been married for 5 years, Loretta and Sylvester. They had been married for 5 years. She wrote in her high school yearbook, Loretta, I want to be a teacher and I want a house full of kids. My dad was construction work. He built a large part of the city of Chicago. But he hated going home from work because my mother put him back to work. She wanted to have a kid. She wanted a house full of kids. She became a teacher. Well, eventually, after 5 years of marriage, no kids, she said, well, let's go to the orphanage. Let's get a little girl and we can adopt. And he was like, yeah. You get off my back. He was all excited about that. Well, then they came down here, and if you knew my mother, she was like, oh, she's looking at all these kids. She wants them all. Because that's how the nuns took care of it. That's how the caretakers could. She wanted them all. And then she saw this little boy and said, nope, I want to foster care this little kid right here. So they bring me home, and Dad's excited because she's got a kid, and he's like, he can relax. She's relaxed because she's got a kid, and a year later she would be pregnant and have my brother. And a year after that, she would have my sister. And a year after that, she would have my brother. I mean, just like that. So I'm telling you, we have God's got a special thing for us adopted kids here, right? We kind of relax people and keep the calm and all that kind of thing. We could be the rebel rousers at that time, but no. So she had 3, and so it was almost, I was 10 years old when they finally adopted me because one, I think the nuns and caretakers want to make sure that, hey, now that they got their own kids, are they going to kind of push me to the side? And if you got to know my mother, that was not going to happen. And so they adopted me when I was 10 years old. And the journey continues. She passed away in 92, and I named one of my daughters after her just as a, again, thank you. And I just live this life of thankfulness. I got 3 daughters and 2 grandsons. I wrote a book because of my grandson. My daughters, hey, you gotta write your story. And I don't know how the beginning of my story. I told you it was just a young girl, 13, 14. I don't know how old she was. I don't know if she was young or old. I just, in my head, I could do that for my grandson that was a young girl. So I wrote this book called Saving Joy, and I wrote it as a girl doing that. Well, I sent the book about 2 years ago, and I finished it to my daughter and my oldest grandson. They were reading it. Here comes little Joy. At that time, he was 4 or 5 years old. He runs in the house, and he's listening to them read the story, and then he's looking at his mother. And she's like, what? What's wrong, Joy? You left me out in the cold? And his big brother does what big brothers do. Elbow him. No, that's Grandpa Daddy. He said, that doesn't say Grandpa Daddy, it says Joy. He knows the name, he knows how to spell. That doesn't say Grandpa Daddy. And no, you and Grandpa Daddy got the same name as Joseph, but we call you guys Joy and all. And so they finally helped him get through that, and then he was, they left Grandpa Daddy in the cold? So my number 1 fan is my grandson who's named after me. In fact, he tells everybody, we got the same birthday. Joy, we don't have the same birthday. My found day is March 20th. Your birthday is December 20th. See, we got the same birthday. You gotta know Joy. Joy is me. He really is. So let me finish the way I started. Miss Jennifer, Mark, what did we say do first? Miss Jennifer, what was next? Out, back, strong to the
right, left, right, left, right to the right, left, left.
All right, very good. Give them a hand. They did very good. Who said that the youngest kids are always spoiled and they don't pay attention? They do pay attention. They do pay attention. Yes, the overhead. This world that we're in, if we're not dreaming and have visions that's bigger than us, then we will never look and seek for something bigger than us. So the overhead, what is it that we're dreaming and envisioning? That's when we're going to say, Lord, I need your hands, I need your help. That's the overhead. The handout, this is the tools and resources to go and do this thing that you have, this dream that you have, this vision. This is the mission. So what are the tools? Our hand is out. We were born with our hand out. But it's not to live with the rest of our lives with our hand out. Eventually we want to use the tools and resources so we can be a help up to somebody else. So from going to hand out to help up. The PowerPoint, where we are to where we're trying to go. Now that we know what the vision is, now we've got tools and resources, now that we know where we are and where we're going. Here's where we are, here's where we're going. In between there's a gap, GAP, get a plan. Right? Here's where you are, here's where you're trying to go. In between there's a gap, GAP, get a plan. But more importantly than have a plan is to work your plan. You gotta do something. You gotta stay on that journey. You gotta get going. And you will meet people on that journey who will say, guess what? The laws just changed. You can have access to. You're going to have people who say, wow, this little boy right here in this orphanage, that's what I want to bring home and change my family because it eases me and now I can have 3 kids of my own. And then I got grandkids. You see how that, but nothing happens if you stayed on that floor and just said, oh, I'm lost. I can never get back home to ITM. Right? That makes some sense to you guys? Thank you guys for having me out today. Appreciate you guys.